Hey everybody, this is Russ from Retro Game Core. Today we're going to take another look at the AYANEO Odin 2 portal. I just got a bunch of accessories in from AYAN and I want to check them out. Now, you may remember from my review videos that my two major complaints about this device had to do with the relatively small analog sticks and then also the somewhat flat ergonomics compared to the size of the device. And like I mentioned in the video, there is an improvement of these sticks directly from AYAN. They've got these new stick caps that will come with pre-orders, and essentially this will make them taller as well as wider. And also because these sticks just pop right out, you're going to be able to see a bunch of third-party option accessories as well, including those that were already made for the Odin 2 and the Odin 2 Mini. Those will work as well. And so like I mentioned in the review, when it comes to these sticks, I do think it is a somewhat solved problem. It's still not the same as like a full-size analog stick, but it is a lot better than it was previously. However, that still doesn't fix the issue with the flat ergonomics. I don't think it's terribly uncomfortable, but I do wish that it had a more solid grip, especially when I'm doing game streaming. And after making my first impressions video, AYN decided to make what they're calling the Odin 2 Portal Protective Case, and this is going to be a grip case that should improve the ergonomics. So this is the primary thing I want to test. But they also sent over all of the accessories they're offering for the Odin 2 Portal, and so let's check these out really quickly before we get to the grip. First, we have this, which is a combination of replacement sticks as well as ABXY buttons, and this will be $5. And if you pre-order the device from their Indiegogo campaign, this should just come with your device anyway. Now, we already talked about the sticks, but these buttons are unique because they essentially allow you to change out the ABXY pattern to be more Nintendo style. So it'll have the A button on the right side as opposed to on the bottom. Now, personally, I prefer to have an Xbox layout like this because most Android games are going to expect this as well. But I do appreciate the fact that they are offering this in the first place. I do prefer the default of the A on the bottom, but you know, if you're going to be focusing on like Nintendo Switch or Super Nintendo games, then this might be a better fit. It's also worth noting that if you do pick up these joystick caps and buttons on their website, they are now offering new additional colors for the joystick caps. When I had first checked it, it only had the black joysticks, but now they have white and gray to complement the color of the device itself. I think that's great. They also sent over this bag, and this came with my review unit as well. I'm not sure if this is coming with all the devices. It in fact is not available for an accessory for purchase on their website, so I'm thinking it might just come with your device. But yeah, it's really just a bag. It's not going to provide any like additional protection or anything like that, but you know, it might be good to keep dust away. They also sent over their screen protector. It's just your typical rectangle, you know, piece of glass. It's $5 on their website. Now, the thing about this handheld is that it is an all glass front, which means it goes from here all the way to here. So I don't really like the idea of putting an additional piece of rectangular glass right here on the front. Yes, it will protect the screen part, but I don't know, I feel like it's just as likely to break here as it is in the center. And so for me, I don't think it's going to look very good. And so I'm just going to leave it as is and not put the screen protector on it. But if you're really concerned about, you know, protecting just this one piece of this entire glass panel, then yeah, you can totally do it. But for me, it really doesn't make that much sense. And they've also got a full-on carrying case. This is $12 on their website, and it kind of looks like, you know, those typical ones you would get for like a Nintendo Switch or something like that, but it is definitely personalized. You can see the AYN here, and then even these zipper pulls have an AYN logo on them as well. One thing I did notice is that this front strap right here doesn't come off, so I wish there was maybe a clip here on each side so I could take this off if I didn't want it, because typically I don't want something like this. I just need the protective case itself. Now, opening it up, we can see we have a gray interior. We've got a mesh part right here that allow us to add accessories, and then we have the case part itself. And this has a real nice soft interior to it, so it's definitely taking care of your device. And the way this works is we've got a flap right here as well as the strap underneath. So the idea is you would put the device on top of the strap, then put the flap down, and then you would use the strap and the Velcro right here to hold it into place. And so you've got additional protection here for the screen, and then you can throw your favorite snack and drink inside this mesh bag as well. And that's really about it. You can just close it up and you should be good to go. The case itself feels nice and sturdy. I don't feel the device like moving around as I start to jostle it. So yeah, no problem here when it comes to the, you know, spirit of a protective case and that it's protecting the device. And then of course, to remove the device, you're just going to open it up and then pull the strap so you can grab the device itself, and you are now good to go. It is a bit on the bulky side. You can see it is rather thick, but that's probably because we have all this additional space for accessories. So you can throw all sorts of stuff within here and still protect your device. Okay, so now let's get to the star of the show, this protective grip case thing. I've been waiting forever for this, so I'm really excited to actually try this out. Okay, so inside we've got some application stickers and additional bumper lifters. So these are for the back two buttons, M1 and M2, and I assume once you put the case on, you're not going to be able to reach them easily, and so this is there to kind of bridge that gap. So let's take a look at the grip itself, and it's got a free Odin 2 portal with it. So look at that, I've got an additional Odin 2 now. Now the case itself is kind of a soft rubber, very similar to what I've seen with like the Retroid Pocket TPU grip as well. So it is definitely bendable. It's not like a thick, like hard rubber. You can see it's got some AYN branding to it, and they've also added some textured grips here. And yeah, I can definitely feel that this is a much bigger grip than it was previously. We've also got a slot for the ventilation, and then it looks like they just have rubber coverings for the volume and power buttons. So this is just one of those things where you'll press it down via this bumper. And we do have access panels for our SD card, our headphone jack, as well as the USB-C port. It's also worth noting that there are 3 different color options when it comes to this TPU grip case, depending on the color of the device that you get. So there's black, there's indigo, and also one that they're calling clear white, which is a transparent color. So depending on your preferences, this might be a good thing in that you can mix and match the colors to complement and personalize the device. For my part, I plan on sticking with the black grip case, even though I have a white Odin 2 portal that I personally purchased on its way. All right, let's try to actually install it. So the whole point here is, you can just kind of lift it over. You've got a top flap here, so you want to make sure that is nice and tight. It is not a super tight grip case. You don't have to really squeeze to get it in. It just kind of goes in naturally. And I can tell you right off the bat, yeah, this feels a lot better. Just holding it right now, this is kind of like what I would expect it to feel like in the first place. The grip is not like Steam Deck size where you're going to be able to full on grip it, but it does give you a lot more room to work with, and it fits really nicely into the bottom of the palm right here. And so that's the biggest thing for me, is that I've got leverage here at the bottom now to be able to use these triggers really easily. And so for me, yes, this works very well. I've got medium-sized hands and I've got plenty of space here. My middle finger just goes right here. It fits perfectly just here below the trigger. And then I've got these other 2 fingers down below. I can still actually access the M1 and M2 buttons. I don't think I would put those rubber bumpers on it. I think it's just good like this. And so it'll really be up to you whether or not you want to have this like flush with the rest of the case, or if you want to have a little divot in here that you can still press down on. Personally, I like it this way, especially because that means I can take it in and out of the case without having those bumpers sticking out. Now the texture of the plastic is like a soft rubber, so it's got a kind of matte feel to it, and I really like this bumpiness right here on the grip too. I think it feels really good. I do have some concerns that over time this will get dirty, but it's probably something that you can use a wipe for and fix easily. And as an added bonus, it kind of covers up all the smudging that you get with the black model, and so this is going to be a lot more smudgy than the original plastic. And so yes, first impressions here, I really like it. I think it fits really well. There is a bit of a lip right here along the sides, but the way that your hand is positioned, I don't really feel it when I'm actually playing. My hand just mostly rests on the rubber right here, and so I don't feel that transition from the rubber to the glass. Instead, it's just like a more natural kind of way of holding it. Another factor to consider when getting a grip like this is how the actual motion feels when you go up and above and then try to use the bumpers and triggers. And for me, it feels very nice and smooth. It's just kind of one with the device itself. So it's not getting in the way right here. This can often happen with like Steam Deck grips and stuff like that. But no, I found this to be just as easy to reach these as it was without. I think it was smart for them not to put a piece of rubber right here, which is sometimes found in like Steam Deck cases. I think this is just a more natural transition right here. So really, I think when it comes down to it, I'm really happy with this grip before I've even started playing any games. I think it's well worth the $15 that they're asking for. And so now, moment of truth here, let's try it with some game streaming. I'm going to use some local streaming here with my Xbox that's here at the studio. Okay, and yes, right off the bat, I can feel a big difference here. Like, this feels a lot more like a full-size console controller. Not to the point where I think it could actually replace the feeling of using a real Xbox or PS5 controller, but it's still very close for a handheld. And in particular, when playing first-person shooter games like this is a very good fit for my medium-sized hands. I'm able to grip the device really well, and then I can also access the shoulders and triggers and the sticks at the same time. And so playing these types of games for me is a very good experience. To put it into numbers, I would say that it was probably like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 without the grip. And now that I'm playing it like this, I would bump it up to maybe an 8 or a 9. Not quite to the point where, it's perfect, but still a lot better and well worth the $15 that they're asking. There is something to be said about the fact that, I kind of wish that it felt like this from the get-go. I think that, having to spend $15 for an additional accessory just to fit my own needs is a little bit weird, but I totally understand that as well. After all, the Nintendo Switch itself is super flat, but then that does give you a lot of options when it comes to accessories to improve the overall handheld experience. And so I can see why the Odin 2 Portal is a thinner device, to make it a little bit more portable, but for me personally, I think that just having it this big in the first place would have been just fine. It's not like I'm throwing this thing in my pocket in the first place. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that this new grip case is transformative, because I think it is a big improvement, but it was still pretty good before this. But I will say that from a game streaming perspective, this does kind of change it from something that, yes, I could see someone else using, to the point where, yes, I actually want to use it myself. And so I guess in that regard, it is a bit transformative. If you are going to be using a more modern control scheme with game streaming, or, playing Windblade or something like that, then I do think that spending that $15 is a really easy recommendation. Now, when it comes to playing retro games with this grip case, like something that's more D-pad centric, it still feels very good. And that's because I'm able to shift my hand down a little bit, and then I can access this D-pad really comfortably. And the grip allows me to basically still hold it really easily. I think this is actually an improvement over the original feel. It definitely does have a more bulky and bulbous kind of feel to it. It's kind of like playing a retro game when, you're using something like an Xbox controller, but I think it's still a pretty good fit. Yeah, it's not going to be like the same as using like a Super Nintendo controller, but I don't think it's half bad. And so again here, I think when it comes to retro gaming, this is an improved experience because I'm able to shift my hand down and still comfortably use the D-pad. Same thing with single analog stick games. Think about, the PS2 and GameCube era, or the PSP and Dreamcast. All of those usually would have the analog stick as your primary way of moving around, but it's not necessarily going to be dual stick analog gameplay like it would be with modern controls. I think this is also a very good fit. In reality, this is probably the ideal control scheme for the Odin 2 Portal, because you have the analog stick up top as well as the face buttons, and so this feels very natural to hold with your thumbs. So I guess in putting it all together, yes, this TPU grip is an improvement in every single respect. It's better when it comes to playing more modern games, where you're playing dual analog sticks and the triggers. It's also really good when it comes to single analog stick games where you're playing with the analog stick and the face buttons. And then it also works really well with retro style games where you're playing with the D-pad and then the face buttons, because this amount of grip allows you to shift your hand really comfortably. So when it comes down to it, yeah, I think this is an improvement over the original Odin 2 Portal feel. Now that I have the grip case on the device itself, I don't really see myself taking it off. Now, one concern I always have with these TPU rubber grips is that the rubber is kind of soft. It's kind of easy to pull it off. You can see that I can just pull this off on a whim. And I remember this being an issue with the Retroid Pocket 4 because I was able to twist the grip and then just basically pull the device right out. But I will say the Odin 2 Portal feels a lot more snug, especially here on the bottom. I can pop it out if I pull it hard enough, but it takes a lot of pressure to do that. And I don't think it's something that'll happen naturally while you're playing a game. And so in the end, I think it is a good balance here in that the grip is not going to naturally pop off, but it's still pretty easy to take off if you want. And because it's a soft rubber, it's not going to damage this like glass in any way. For example, I've seen reports from people where they used a 3D printed grip case on the Retroid Pocket 5, which has a similar all-glass front, but because they had a screen protector across the front, it didn't fit very naturally, and so putting in that hard 3D printed thing actually cracked their screen protector, and so I don't see this being an issue at all with the Odin 2 grip case. So in the end, I don't want to drag this video out anymore, but I definitely think that this TPU grip case really solves my problem when it comes to the overall ergonomics, and now that we have these additional joystick caps as well, I think this is probably going to become my primary streaming handheld. I just finished a review of the AYANEO Pocket EVO, which I think has better ergonomics. It's more rounded, it feels more comfortable to hold, and it's got full-size joysticks and really nice triggers. And so initially I planned on using this as my primary game streaming handheld because the ergonomics do feel so good. The problem with this one is that it has terrible audio to the point where I don't really like using it for streaming. And on the flip side, now that I have these additional grips and the higher sticks, I think that I'm just going to be using the Odin 2 Portal instead, even though I think naturally the Pocket EVO just makes a lot more sense. And I'm still working on a comparison video between these two devices because there are a lot of factors to consider when it comes to these high-end Android devices, and they each have their own good and bad. But in the case of the Odin 2 Portal on its own, if you're already planning on picking one up or you already have one, I think that this grip case, for me at least in my use cases, is a must buy. It really does improve that experience. And so if you happen to get the Odin 2 Portal and you think the ergonomics could be better, this solves the problem, at least for me. Another thing to keep in mind is it will make your device a little bit bigger. You can see these grips do protrude quite a bit. It's not at like Steam Deck territory, as you can see, but it does make it just an overall larger device. And it's also obviously going to make it heavier. It's now 523 grams, which is almost 100 grams heavier than it is without the case. So if you are looking for something that is very lightweight, about the size of a Nintendo Switch OLED, then this is going to make it heavier. But for my part, I do think that the trade-off here with the additional weight is definitely worth it in terms of ergonomics. Now, one other last thing worth noting is that this nice shiny $12 case does not actually fit with the TPU grip case. So you'll have to make a decision one way or another. Either you can put the grip case on it, or you can use the protective case, but you're not going to be able to use both at once. For my part, I've got this case from a company called Waterfield, and this is just kind of an all-in-one case. It can be used for a bunch of different devices. It's got this nice magnetic clasp to it, so I really like using this thing. And this one does fit inside of it, even with the grip. And so that's probably what I'm going to be using in the future, is this case instead. But bear in mind, this one is quite expensive. It's got, real leather on it. And I think it's like, something like $50 or $60. I'll leave it linked down below. Anyway, that's really about it for this video. I don't want to drag it out too long. After all, we're just talking about ergonomics, but you know how I love to get into these details. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you already have the Odin 2 Portal? Do you think that the grips on it already are okay? Or do you think that a TPU grip case like this will solve your problems? For me, I'm not going to be taking this off my Odin 2 Portal. I like it that much. As always, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and we will see you next time. Happy gaming.